Well, good morning. Happy Tuesday. We are here with another daily dose of the Word, and today we're going to be looking at John 4, 46 through 54. So, a simple, short passage, but I think a really good passage. So, let's read through it real quick. We'll kind of walk through it afterwards, and then we'll talk a few points of application. Starting in verse 46. So he came again to Cana in Galilee, where he had made the water wine. And at Capernaum there was an official whose son was ill. When this man heard that Jesus had come down from Judea to Galilee, he went to him and asked him to come down and heal his son, for he was at the point of death. So Jesus said to him, "Unless you see signs and wonders, you will not believe." The official said to him, "Sir, come down before my child dies." Jesus said to him, "Go, your son will live." The man believed the word that Jesus had spoken to him and went on his way. As he was going down, his servants met him and told him that his son was recovering. So he asked them the hour when he began to get better. And they said to him, "Yesterday at the 7th hour the fever left him." The father knew that that was the hour when Jesus had said to him, "Your son will live." And he himself believed in all of his household. This was now the second sign that Jesus did when he had come from Judea to Galilee. So let's walk through it really quickly and kind of point out these things that I've kind of noted. First thing is in verse 47. I thought this was a pretty important part where it says that he went to him, right? Part of what we need to remember is though Jesus makes himself readily available to us, and the Bible talks about how Jesus draws near to us, it's important to recognize that when we talk about a relationship, we also have a responsibility to draw near to God. Right? So that we can't expect that Jesus is just going to come and fix our every need whenever we have it without the expectation that we first seek him out, right? So we see this man seeks out Jesus when he has a need, right? Here in the purple is his need, and asks him to come down and heal his son, for he was at the point of death. So this man has a sick son. His son needs healing, and he's worried for him. And so he draws near to Jesus, seeks out Jesus, and goes to him. And then in verse 48, we see Jesus' response to this man where he says, "Unless you see signs and wonders, you will not believe." And I think this was an interesting way for Jesus to ultimately test the Father's faith, right? Signs and wonders are obviously something that were meant to give credibility to Jesus' ministry and give credibility to Jesus' claims. But one thing that you can see Jesus grow frustrated with is when people have the expectation of always providing him always providing signs in order that they may believe. So Jesus ultimately uses this as a means of testing people's faith, right? He says to this man who's asking him to heal his son, he says, "Well, you're not going to believe in who I claim to be unless I ultimately give you this sign." And I think the Father's response is really teachable and really helpful for us to see and understand, right? In verse 49, it says, "The official said to him, 'Sir, come down before my child dies.'" Right? And so we see that the official is almost kind of dancing around it, but intentionally moving past it and saying, "Lord, that's not like my faith right now in you is not dependent on you being able to do a sign. I don't need you to perform another miracle to prove to me who you are and that you can heal my son. I know that you can, so please come down before my child dies. This is the pressing matter at hand." And Jesus, in his mercy, responds in verse 50, right? Jesus said to him, "Go, your son will live." And I love the man's response, right? So Jesus very simply says, "Go, your son will live." And this isn't like, we could think about this in the context of our life right now where we have cell phones and social media and stuff, right? Where if Jesus said this in our present culture, he says, "Go, your son will live." We'd call up our family and be like, "Hey, is so-and-so still healthy? Is so-and-so good now? I just talked to Jesus. He said he'll be good. Is he good now?" Right? They didn't have that. But the man's response is one of complete faith, right? Jesus said to him, "Go, your son will live." The man believed the word that Jesus spoke to him and went on his way. And so all Jesus did was say, "Your son will be good. I'm healing him in this moment." And the father, having no ability to check if this is actually true, trusts Jesus at his word and leaves and goes on his way. And then we see kind of the follow-up to it, right? As he was going down, his servants met him, and they said his son was recovering. He asked what time that would be, or what time that happened at. They said, "Yesterday at the 7th hour, the fever left him." And I love this. The father knew that that was the hour when Jesus had said to him, "Your son will live." And so the father remembers that interaction back with Jesus the day before and how ultimately Jesus' words were verified in that moment. They came true. And it says that he himself and all his household believed as a result of this. So, a few points of application that I think are really helpful for us to remember. Number one, it is okay to go to Jesus when we have needs, right? We see that in verse 47. This man goes to Jesus when he has a need. And sometimes I think, especially as it relates to prayer, we feel guilty about praying for ourselves. Now, it's important to remember that not all of our prayers should be about ourselves, right? We should pray for those around us who are in need as well. But I think one thing that texts like this do stress is that it's okay for us to not have everything together. It's okay for us to have needs and bring them to Jesus. Number two, true faith takes Jesus at his word, right? So we see in verse 50 that this man, his faith was so trusting of Jesus that as soon as Jesus said, your son will be healed, your son will live, the man trusted Jesus, the words that he spoke to him, and ultimately went on his way. And in the same way, even though we can't always verify in that moment the truth, we have to trust Jesus at his word. So even though we might read something in the Bible that confirms that everything is going to be okay, that God is in control, that he's working everything for his sovereign good, and we might not feel it in that moment, we're called to trust and have faith in Jesus and take him at his word. And then lastly, God uses reminders in our faith to build us up, right? I think that it's really cool how in verse 52 and 53, the servant is able to confirm the time that Jesus ultimately said, your son will live, right? And the father knew, and that helps him in his belief, right? So I think throughout our life, throughout our days, we'll see opportunities or times where Jesus will use things to build us up in our faith too, little, quote, coincidences that ultimately we know are not coincidences, but are instead God displaying his faithfulness. So that is all I have for today's Daily Dose of the Word. Again, if you guys can think of an application point from this text, a way that you can begin to apply this to your life, and text it to me or email it to me, you'll be entered into a drawing to win a $5 gift card. So that will be every Daily Dose of the Word. So today and Thursday, 2 opportunities to win, and it's simple. All you gotta do, watch this video, think through it for yourself, begin to apply it to your life, and then you have a chance to win. All right, that's all I got for today. I will see you on Thursday for the beginning of chapter 5.